Hello, hello, Cooey. Here's me, Kate, on Stories at 7, Jill and Ori, for folks that like a story. And the wonderful Sue Elliott-Nichols was with you yesterday. Well, yes, it was the other one, the one before this one. I don't know which side it is. The one before this one, with Chapter 10 of Nutcracker and the Mouse King. And where she left us was with Councillor / Godfather Drosselmeyer being rather mysterious and saying that Mary alone can save the Nutcracker. Everybody thought he was a bit potty. I'm not sure what I think of Godfather Drosselmeyer. I'm with Sue. Sometimes I quite like him, but most of the time, I don't know. There's something off, you know. Right then, but let us continue the story. And we're on with Chapter 11, The Victory. Not long afterwards, Mary was awakened one moonlit night by a strange tumult, which means like a big old hoo-ha kicking off. Oh, I don't know if police were called. Anyway, by a strange tumult that seemed to come from one corner of the room. It was as if pebbles were being thrown and rolled about amidst a hideous accompaniment of hissing and squeaking. "Ah, the mice! The mice are coming back!" cried Mary in terror, and would have wakened her mother, but she could not utter a sound or even move a finger as she saw the Mouse King working himself through a hole in the wall, till at length, with sparkling eyes and shining crowns, all 7 of them, he advanced into the room. Then, with a mighty bound, sprang up on the small table which stood close to Mary's bed.
"Hee! You must give me your sugar plums, your toffee, small thing, else I bite that nutcracker of yours to pieces. Nutcracker, do you hear?
So piped out the Mouse King, gnashing and clashing horribly with his teeth, and quickly sprang out of sight again through the mouse hole. Mary was so distressed by the dreadful apparition that the next morning she looked quite pale, and could scarcely speak for inward agitation. 100 times she thought of telling her mother what had happened, her mother, or Louisa, or at least Fred, but she asked herself, will any of them believe me? And shall I not be well laughed at by everybody? Yet it was quite clear to her she must sacrifice her sugar plums and toffees to save Nutcracker. As much as she had of these nice things, she laid out that evening on the edge of the cupboard shelf. Next morning her mother said, "I don't know how the mice have got into our parlour. Just see, poor Mary, they've eaten up all your sweet stuff." Indeed it was so. The sticky toffee had not proved much to the taste of greedy Mouse King, but he had nibbled all over it with his sharp teeth, so that it must be thrown away. Well, that's not nice, is it? Mary did not take the loss of her sweets much to heart. Rather, she secretly rejoiced to think that it had saved the Nutcracker's life. But what were her feelings when the next night there came again a squeaking and squawking at her ear? It was the Mouse King back again, and still more horribly glowed his eyes than the night before, and still more hatefully hissed he between his teeth.
"Must give me your sugar and gingerbread figures, little thing, else I bite your nutcracker into pieces. Hee!"
And with this he again scampered away, the grim Mouse King. In great distress, Mary went next morning to the cupboard and sorrowfully looked at her sugar and gingerbread men. She had reason indeed to be sorrowful, for you can't think, my good reader, listener, what dear little figures made out of sugar and gingerbread Mary Stalbourne possessed. First of all, a very pretty shepherd with a shepherdess. who was feeding a whole herd of milk-white sheep, and his dog that jumped close by, quite lifelike. Then came 2 postmen with letters in their hands, and 4 fine couples, nicely dressed young men with maidens, elegantly adorned all over, who were rocking themselves in a swing boat. Behind some ballet dancers stood old King Cole behind the Maid of Orleans, for whom Mary did not care very much. But right back in the corner was a red-cheeked little child, her favourite of all, and tears sprang into small Mary's eyes. "Oh, dear Herr Drosselmeyer," she cried, turning to the Nutcracker, "whatever will I not do to save you? But it is hard." Ah, Nutcracker, all the while, looked so sad that Mary, who could fancy she saw the Mouse King's 7 jaws open to devour the unhappy youth, resolved to sacrifice everything for his sake. All of her sugar figures she set out this evening on the edge of the shelf, as before she had done with the goodies. She kissed the shepherd, the shepherdess, the little lambs, and last of all she fetched from the corner her favourite, the dear red-cheeked child, whom she took care to put behind all the rest. The gingerbread old King Cole and Maid of Orleans had to stand in the front row. They'd be first to go, wouldn't they? "Oh, this is too bad," exclaimed her mother the next morning. "There must be a great nasty mouse living in the cupboard, for all poor Mary's pretty sugar figures were gnawed and bitten to bits." Mary could hardly keep back her tears, but she soon smiled again at the thought. What does it matter, so long as Nutcracker is safe? In the evening, when her mother told the counsellor about the mischief a mouse did in the children's cupboard, Dr. Stahlbaum remarked what a pity it was that they could not get rid of this pest, which played such tricks in the cupboard and ate up all of Mary's sweet things. "Well," put in Fred eagerly, "the baker, who lives below us, has a fine grey chamber counsellor, which I can bring up. He will soon stop these doings and bite off the mouse's head, were it Lady Mousykins herself or her son, the Mouse King." "Yes, by jumping about on tables and chairs," laughed his mother, "and upsetting cups and glasses and doing ever so much more damage." "Not at all," answered Fred. "The baker's cat is a clever fellow. I wish I could walk as steadily along the sharp roof as he can. Only let us have no puss tonight," begged Louisa, who could not bear cats. Now, upon that news, I don't like Louisa, because I love a cat. I love a dog. I like all animals. I am not sure that I would like the 7-headed Mouse King, however, but I do love cats. I have 2, and I like Sue's cat too, that popped in. Anyway, I digress. Back to the story. "Fred is right," said his father, "but first we might try setting a trap. Have we none?" "We can get the best kind from Godfather Drosselmeyer, who invented them," cried Fred. All the rest laughed, and the mistress declaring that there was no trap in the house, the counsellor said that he had several, and sent at once for a first-class one. Their godfather's story of the hard nut came now clearly into the mind of Mary and Fred. While cook was toasting the bacon, Mary trembled with excitement, and her head full of the story and its marvels, thus addressed their familiar Betsy, that's their cook. "Ah, Lady Queen, do beware of Mousykins and her family." But Fred had drawn his sword, bidding the whole race of mice come on, and he would soon clear them off. All, however, remained still, under and about the hearthstone, when now the counsellor tied a shred of bacon onto a thin thread, and softly laid the trap in the cupboard. Fred called out, "Take care, Godfather Clockmaker, that the Mouse King plays on you no trick." Ah, what had poor Mary to go through that night? There came an ice cold creeping up and down her arm, and a loathsome breath on her cheek, and a piping and squeaking in her ear. The horrible Mouse King sat on her shoulder, blood-red foam dripping out of his 7 open jaws and gnashing and clashing with his teeth. He hissed out to Mary as she lay motionless for fear and dread. And that's where my bit stops. Ooh. What did the Mouse King say?
Well, we don't know yet. Sue will tell us tomorrow. Hee!
Which is quite nice. Yeah, Sue will pick up that tomorrow and we'll find out what that horrible Mouse King says. He's quite clever, isn't he? It's quite devious. Now then, I'll pop off. You look out for mice in the little holes and stuff and take care. Okie doke. Toodle pip for now.